Everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We have a really special presentation for you, and I think it will definitely be worth your time. So, our topic today is financial diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm Rita Wolfson, the founder of Financial Social Work, and your guest speaker today. Just some housekeeping. Um, there will be messages in the chat box for you. We don't share our slides, they are proprietary, but you will get the recording and you will be able to go through it as many times as you'd like. You can certainly type in your questions in the question box and we will answer as many as them as time permits. There are no CEs or certificates of attendance for this webinar, just lots of good content. I always like to ask everyone to take a deep breath in and out, and in and out, because when we talk about money, we're talking about so many things that affect each of us differently. And I will start today with our financial social work affirmation because I feel that it captures all the work I've done over the past 25 years. It goes just for today. I will love myself enough to face my fears, practice self-acceptance, and embrace hope. Silence my inner critic, speak my truth, and make peace with myself and with my past. Just for today, I will give myself permission to eliminate toxic people, beliefs, and behaviors from my life. And just for today, I will prepare for a better tomorrow by healing my relationship with my money and with myself today. So this is a rhetorical question, unless you would like to put your answer into the question box and we can look at those later. What made you decide to register for this training today? When I started it, I thought I knew the direction it would go in. But as many trainings do, it kind of took on a life of its own. And I learned a tremendous amount. This is how I thought my research and this presentation would go. I knew there was lots more I wanted to learn about DEI, but in the end, it really got somewhat overwhelming, and I will be explaining that to you as we move forward. But the primary goal for me today is to help everyone recognize the role of financial health and financial wellness in DEI, social, gender, and economic justice. So what is DEI? Most of you will be familiar with these traditional explanations. Diversity and inclusion are outcomes, and equity is a definite process and approach to ongoing commitment for creating opportunities that improve the lives of marginalized populations. So this is kind of where I came in, what I was thinking when I came into this to prepare for today's training. And you can all read this quote from Maya Angelou. I find it very appropriate right now. So DEI came to the forefront as Black Lives Matters began following the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Everyone was talking about DEI. I wondered then, and I probably don't wonder as much at the moment, having studied it so much in the past few months, how much of that was lip service. Unfortunately, I would say a good bit of it. And the reason for that is because when it comes to DEI, one size does not fit all. It doesn't even fit most because this work is very complicated. There are many, many barriers, but from the website WellWrite, I just took these 5 and they sound innocent enough or simple enough, but they begin to capture the difficulty of successfully implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion. I can't say positively, absolutely, that this is an outstanding action plan, but I did want to share it with you to show you the amount of work and time and effort required just to develop a plan of action. And I thought I should give you a moment to look at these 50 best companies for diversity and inclusion. I took these from Monster, and I think you might find it interesting to know if any of the companies or businesses you do business with are successfully implementing DEI. Many are not. So, how did we get here? Well, many of us on this training know about redlining practices throughout the 20th century, making it hard, if not impossible, for families of color to secure mortgages to buy homes. We do know that home ownership is an excellent way to build generational wealth. We will touch on generational wealth in a few minutes. And the other one that I'll just touch on is subprime and predatory lenders, who are the companies that fill the vacuum created by mainstream lenders that don't operate in red line areas, that don't feel the need or have the interest to do business in those areas. And of course, we will be talking more about women being held back from building credit and wealth. And just so I can remind you, it wasn't until 1974 with the passage of the Fair Credit Opportunity Act that a woman could even open a credit card in her own name. So there are some of the gender problems and challenges that women still face today. So which groups are affected by race and structural racism? Most, if not all, non-white groups have been subordinated, excluded, and marginalized at one time or another. And we're not going to do a lot of statistics, but I do feel that some statistics add depth to what we're talking about. So you can see the poverty rates for 2019, and you can see the earnings and the differences that they create for racial and ethnic groups and the disparities by gender. there is a wealth gap in this country. According to the Federal Reserve, white families on average have 8 times the wealth of Black families and 5 times the wealth of Hispanic families. So you can see the graphic, which delves a little more deeply into the income gap and the wealth gap. And if you want to study that further, you will be able to come back and watch and stop the recording of our webinar. Also, business owners of color have greater difficulty accessing startup funding, growth funding, and capital with affordable interest rates. Affordable being the key word there. So many issues. There are so many issues, so many financial issues, so many problems, so many populations struggling financially. Certainly now with inflation and the pending recession, but certainly always over time. And there's never enough time for those of us in the helping professions to really address these problems. So let's just talk for a moment about what those issues are. There are many, you can see them, from bankruptcy to financial toxicity, intergenerational immobility, home ownership, religious beliefs, many, many ways that many different populations need help, support, and knowledge. And some of those populations certainly are diverse. So the problems that someone who was incarcerated or someone who's a survivor or a caregiver, what they're facing, their problems, their stress, anxiety, and trauma is different than Gen X or Gen Z or the elderly. Lots of problems for lots of people, which is why we're moving into the role of personal financial DEI. So let's take a look at which money related activities do you think trigger negative feelings for most men and women? Let me launch that poll. Let's see. Okay. We'll give you a little time to make a choice. One thing I love about the attendees at our conferences or at these trainings is how hands-on you are, how you participate. And that just, it makes it better for your presenter. And I hope it helps keep you more interested and engaged. So I'd like to get up to over 70%. We're at 67% right now. Anybody else want to vote? Give you another few seconds. I'll count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks, everybody. We went to 73, 74%. Okay, now let's see what you thought. Well, this is not where I wanted to be. So I'm not sure why that's happening. Okay, hopefully you can all see that you were pretty split between looking at their bank accounts and paying a bill. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Having to discuss money, very interesting. Well, let's take a look and see if you were right. Looking at their bank accounts. We can only give 5 choices, so I didn't include everything on this list. But I thought it was interesting and that you might enjoy participating in that poll. So there is this wealth gap that I've already started talking about, and it kind of shows up here with investing, because investing is another way of building wealth. Not particularly right now, I understand that, but over time. So investing and home ownership, and those are difficult for many different populations to be part of and participate in. You can see what we have here, that 50 to 78% of working Americans earn only enough to pay their bills, and many can't even do that. And many in those percentages are earning over $100,000. Just some more stats that I've read recently. So we see that the median family wealth for white families versus Black families prevents or certainly challenges making it, being able to save, invest, and insure. And we're not going to talk much about insurance or any about insurance today, but it's a very important piece of wealth building. So financial well-being is a central component of DEI because of the many systemic and cultural challenges many experience when trying to participate in the economic system. And you can see that nearly half of women cannot afford a $400 emergency, while more men can. 1 in 5 Black Americans have a credit score of 620 or lower, and we will talk about that in a few minutes. I had included in this training on the sign up that we would be looking at financial profiling, and that involves credit scores. Households that include members with disabilities are less likely to have emergency savings, and same-sex couples are 73% more likely to be denied a mortgage. Many, many prejudices. This one is rather powerful. It doesn't really need any explanation from me. So now, as we're moving on with financial DEI, you will see that I feel that a major problem for so many Americans is financial illiteracy. Only 15 states in this country require any personal finance classes. Most of those are a 1-semester course. And that is why we continue to raise generation after generation of financially illiterate men and women. And that is the problem that is often seen not only in the workplace with increased absenteeism, declining mental health, decreased employee engagement, employee turnover, but it's the reason that so many people struggle in every area of their lives. Without any money management training, Americans are expected to know what to do when they have more month than money, more debt than assets, more financial problems than solutions. Obviously, that's an unrealistic expectation. And you can see in this diagram of mine, it's called the Wolfson Cycle of Financial Illiteracy. I've been talking about this for many years because it's such a big problem. Financial illiteracy places everyone at constant risk for homelessness, books, food insecurity, foreclosure, definitely low wages, no assets, domestic violence, and even child abuse, and much, much more. Some of the outcomes of financial illiteracy. There are many, because if you don't understand what you don't know, you're much more likely to avoid opening your bills, not knowing your credit score, taking a payday loan. You'll see in a few moments why these are so abusive. Trusting your financial future to someone else, not a good idea. Not having a personal savings and spending plan. That's what we at Financial Social Work call and use in place of a budget. There's more. If you don't understand the value in savings, if you don't understand the dangers in co-signing a loan, I would hope that anyone on this training would never consider co-signing a loan. It's not a good idea. You could easily, and it happens all the time, end up paying for someone else's home or someone else's education. You can't afford to ignore your student debt. Everyone across the financial spectrum really needs to have an estate plan. I know that that isn't always a popular concept, particularly for low income families, but it is something that is needed. Okay, so those are some of the financial illiteracy outcomes. We'll take a moment to talk about financial trauma. This is an interesting website, and there are others on money and trauma triad, looking at the personal, collective, and intergenerational aspects of money and trauma. Generational financial trauma may contribute to all kinds of problems, and these aren't the traditional things we consider when working with clients who are struggling, whether we're discussing their finances or not. The personal and collective trauma we hold about money can only begin to unravel and heal when we face the fear, shame, and faulty stories that surround us all. I particularly like this graphic in the lower right-hand corner. I really like it a lot, and it makes so much sense, doesn't it? Okay, we'll look at gender a little bit. So 25 years ago, this year, I started financial social work with the word feminomics. I decided that when you create your own word, you get to create its definition also. And I gave that word the definition of the gender of money. Now, quite frankly, when I started all of this and I started talking about the gender of money, two things happened with many social workers and other helping professionals. They insisted there was no gender of money, but I will guess that most of the women in this audience know that there is a gender of money, and I'm going to show you my thoughts on that on the next slide. but also people felt very strongly that there was no such thing as financial social work and that we shouldn't talk to clients about money. So those were some of the challenges I faced back 20 to 25 years ago. But poverty does have a woman's face. And these 7 feminomics components of the gender of money are very real. And unfortunately, they're as true and real today, 25 years later, as they were back then. Only now I need to update this because we lost Roe v. Wade. Oh, the gender wage gap for women of color. This demonstrates that a man earns his dollar within the calendar year, and a woman, a white woman, earns 80 cents of that dollar. An African American woman earns 58 cents of that dollar, and a Latina woman earns 43 cents. So, what does that look like for us? I'm always a little disappointed and surprised that more women aren't aware of Equal Pay Day each year. Equal Pay Day in 2022 was on March 15th, and that's a day that is selected with various formulas and maybe algorithms, and that's labeled Equal Pay Day. But this year, they've added some greater detail in figuring that out. And you can see that Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Women's Equal Pay Day is May 3rd. LGBTQIA and Equal Pay Awareness Day, June 15th. Mom's Equal Pay Day, September 8th. Black Women's Equal Pay Day, September 21st. Native Women's, November 30th. And what this is saying is that for Native women, they still have to work to the end of this month to equal the amount of money a white man earned last year in 2021, and a Latina woman will work until December 8th. I really think we should all be very aware of these numbers and this time. So, a few realities of discrimination, equity, and inclusion. It is very traumatizing when you are struggling with your money. It can be very, very overwhelming, and our reactions are often to disengage from our money, to ignore it, and that only allows things to get much worse. And everything that I've read and prepared for today demonstrates that Americans across all generations are questioning and worrying about their financial futures. That's something to really think about, understand, and be prepared to discuss with clients. Financial worries make sleeping and concentrating difficult. They lead to guilt, shame, stress. They cause sweat, racing heart, tiredness, headaches, muscle tightness, upset stomach, and obsessing and spending over money. And they can definitely contribute to risky behavior like gambling, excessive alcohol consumption, and conflict in relationships. Definitely, definitely, definitely conflicts in relationships. This particular research, I thought, as we're winding down, we're presenting all the issues, or well, a few of the issues, and then we'll be looking at some of the solutions, how to address those issues. So a lot of people, a lot of working adults feel that their employers should and could be doing more to help them. And here actually is the breakdown by percentages of how people are feeling across generations about their finances. You can see that Gen Z and millennials are having most difficult time. Well, there's Gen X also. The increase in inflation has put stress on working adults, and it's spilling over into the workplace. People are less productive. They actually spend this as half an hour or more during the workday thinking about their finances, but many employees have to spend time making phone calls, sometimes setting up court dates, sometimes having to leave work to address their financial problems. And 74%, that's an awful lot, can sense that more of their coworkers are worried about their personal and finances due to inflation. It's a problem. It's a problem that everyone is experiencing, and it's making it difficult to save for retirement. Fewer people are able to save, and people are taking money from their retirement funds. Too many may not understand the penalties, the very costly penalties that accrue when you do take money from a retirement fund. Many working adults are unsure how to navigate their financial situations. Again, that's understandable because they weren't taught how. And I think that's a huge responsibility that those of us doing this work need to address. We need to help Americans. It costs money to wake up every day. If someone is older, a woman, uninsured, a person of color, if someone has a record, an illness or disability, a low credit score, a bankruptcy, or a foreclosure. The truth is, the bottom line is, that person's life is very much likely more expensive than other people's lives. And this graphic is to demonstrate that this is true across, all of this is true across the age spectrum. Few more statistics. One almost final one. So that's the foundation for the reasoning that economic stability is crucial to DEI, because at nearly every stage of their lives, Black Americans have less than white Americans, as do so many other people of color. So I wanted to talk to you about financial profiling because I feel strongly about financial profiling, which is a concept I created over a decade ago, but don't talk a lot about. But you'll see how real it is. And it's just as important as financial illiteracy, although financial illiteracy provides the foundation for financial profiling. We are a nation built on debt. We depend on tomorrow's dollars to pay for today's consumption. And while this says buy now, pay later, when credit cards were first growing popular, that was the saying, buy now, pay later. But today we have a new way of looking at buy now, pay later, which is on most websites, you can break your payments into 4 different installments. And there's so many traps with using BNPL. It's something I think we will see that clients struggle with next year when after they use it over the holidays. So we continue to pay off mortgage debt, credit card debt, student debt, and government debt. So my theory of financial profiling is it's discrimination based on our FICO or credit score. And it is our FICO credit score that determines our ability to buy a home, rent an apartment, even work in certain professions. If you have a poor FICO score, you will pay more for a car and more for car insurance. And I did put in this graphic on the FICO score because everyone should be familiar with your credit score. Credit histories were originally developed to help lenders assess a consumer's level of risk for debt repayment. However, now it's used as a screening tool for jobs, cars, homes, apartments, insurance rates, and even relationship barometers. And I've had more than a few people tell me, well, mostly women, that they would never enter into a long-term relationship without knowing the debt and credit score of a potential partner. So the record of every credit card purchase is the equivalent of a financial fingerprint because the details of that purchase, when and how quickly it's paid off, is comparable to a police record because it follows you for a very long time, a very, very long time. Every purchase becomes part of your credit history or your credit report with the 3 major consumer reporting agencies known as CRAs and credit bureaus. And you can see them there. They're Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. CRAs collect and store everyone's credit activities, and then they charge a fee for supplying that information, not only to the businesses that want to know whether or not you are likely to repay any money they lend you through a credit card or a mortgage or a car payment. They charge us for that information also. And there may be, I've been reading, some changes coming to credit reporting because there are many inaccuracies in it. And so one reason you really do need to know and see your credit report is to make sure that it's accurate and not allow any mistakes on it to hurt you in making a purchase or in your score, credit score. So I'm just flying through here. What is the average credit score by race? I thought about doing this as a poll. I didn't think, I know I would not before I was working on this, have known that Asians have higher credit scores. So how financial profiling affects DEI. These are some wonderful resources for you. They're a couple years old, but Forced to Walk a Dangerous Line, The Causes and Consequences of Debt in Black Communities. It's from Prosperity Now. And you can see the difference between who uses alternative financial credit products and who uses costly credit card borrowing. So let's do this second of 3 polls. Let's see if I can get this. It's this one. Okay. So what do you think the cost, because I have told you that payday loans are very exploitive and abusive. So a $300 payday loan over the course of 1 year, what do you think that would cost? I'll be honest with you, I did not get it right. My colleague did not get it right. Okay, 62% of you have voted. Let's see. Anybody else? Okay, I think we'll go ahead and close this poll and see. I will share your results and then I'll show you where I took this from. So you're pretty evenly spread over the last 4 choices. And now I'm going to hide it. Oh. Okay. Let me hide that. And you can see whether you were right. So I boxed up that in 1 year it would cost $2,160 for a $300 loan. I think that is incredibly predatory. And the only thing that I understand is more predatory is car loans, car title loans. When you hand in your title and take a loan and end up paying an awful lot of money and possibly, often likely, losing your car. And you can see that mostly in minority neighborhoods, there are many, many more payday lending stores. And I have noticed that myself in certain cities. This is another really strong resource, again, from a few years ago, but lots of good information, which I'm just going to share a little of it with you right now. It talks about the feelings people experience when they have debt. They're very real and they're very overwhelming and powerful and traumatizing. And then there are the barriers that men and women of color have to address: knowledge barriers, behavior barriers, structural barriers. It's a lot. It's a lot. And this diagram, we could spend a bunch of time on looking how each intersects and affects the others. And I just talked about this a few minutes before, about how we disconnect. There's a strong tendency to disconnect from your money when you're traumatized by it. That threatens more than just our credit scores because it affects us physically, mentally, and emotionally. It also affects us socially. There are so many areas of our lives that are taken over by financial struggles. So DEI is really, it's a macro level. Well, they are macro level functions. And they're complicated, they're time consuming, and they're costly. If you remember at the very beginning, I shared a graphic of the many, many, many steps one organization was putting into place to develop a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. So it is complicated, time consuming, and costly. This is just one piece that we don't think about, but we all have unconscious biases, and they are part of that. They're going to affect our behavior regardless of any DEI plan. They're very powerful. And if yet you don't know anything about behavioral economics, this ties perfectly into behavioral economics. And we have done webinars on them in the past. And all of our monthly free webinars are recorded and on our website at financialsocialwork.com. So when I say complicated, what I did here was take the lists that I shared with you a little while ago about the populations that need different kinds of help and the issues that affect those different populations. And they all get factored into the same funnel. There's so much going on, and we're asking people in businesses and corporations to do something about that. Not easy and not quick. I contend that we need to bring this down from the macro level to the micro level. I think it makes perfect sense and is absolutely necessary. And I know that from the 25 years I've spent creating financial social work. And I've spent that time addressing the economic impact on clients experiencing financial problems, stress, trauma, so much more during that time. So financial social work is the intersection of politics, the economy, social work, economic, gender, and social justice. Again, lots and lots of areas that are impacted by it, but financial social work works on a micro, meso, and macro level. Financial social work explores financial health fundamentals. It is heavily psychosocial. We look at the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, values, and experiences that drive financial behavior, because financial social work is a behavioral model, and that means we address how people earn, spend, save, share, and borrow. Until and unless behavior changes, nothing changes. So we definitely need to delve deeper into these issues with clients. So when I talk about financial behavior, these are just a few of the factors that are involved. And we've talked about some of those today. At the core of my work, we have to heal our relationship with money. We need to recognize and take ownership of our financial lives and our financial health. And relationship with ourself is about self-discovery, self-care, and self-healing. Those two pieces are the essence and core of financial health and wellness. So the motto is all of those things: strengths-based, reflective, active, holistic. And again, it's that behavioral model. I believe that's the reason that we have graduates in all of these countries and in more countries. And that's exciting for us. So now we come to strategies for client individual financial DEI, should probably say healing. One last poll. We'll do this one quickly so we at least get to go through those strategies. Okay, we're not going to take as long on this one. I think it's important to know what represents financial success to us, to ourselves, and to others, to our clients, most importantly. If we don't, I mean, that becomes, those are our financial goals. Sure, there's a lot more to setting those goals, but we don't take the time, I don't think. You don't spend enough time. Anybody else wants to vote, go ahead. And then I'm just going to close this and keep going. Okay. I'm going to close it and share it. And there was no right or wrong or research based on this. I just wanted to prompt our audience to think more about what represents financial success to you so that you are better prepared to achieve it. So let's go ahead and finish up. See if you have any time for some Q&A. When we talk about money, what are we really talking about? Important to know. We are talking about power because those who have the money have the power. But our jobs are about empowering our clients and ourselves when it comes to money, to helping with financial knowledge. So it's really important to know what money means to us. To some, it does mean security, survival, freedom, definitely power, success, lots more. You want to set healthy money boundaries. Obviously, I think I've already done whole webinars on personal and financial boundaries. But if we're not setting those boundaries, we're not looking to improve our financial futures. We need to address, if we're working with clients, our own financial trauma. We need to identify our trauma triggers so we can avoid them. We need to understand current and past financial circumstances do not have to dictate future financial circumstances. That kind of thinking locks us in and takes away hope and minimizes how much someone can be helped. Social determinants of health are huge. Look at the socioeconomic factors. They're 50% of social determinants of health. And we have to, money is always the elephant in the room. It's almost 2023, and we still don't talk about money. And we need to go beyond crisis intervention because that's reactive, and we want everyone to be more proactive about money. We have to know and understand that systems are slow to change, but each of us is part of the system. So we have a contribution to make in helping people choose greater financial health and wellness as a form of expanding diversity, equity. Heal your relationship with self. I talked about that before. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but you'll see some of the things that I've already talked to you about. Certainly give yourself permission to create a better financial future is important. Advocate for equal education, better health care, affordable housing. I think that's something we can all do. And we can all advocate and create greater DEI on a micro and meso and macro level using some of these suggestions and others that you may come up with for yourselves. So before we do any Q&A, if you can stick around, I'll try and take a few questions. I want you to know that if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, you're really missing out. It is absolutely curated for financial health and wellness professionals. It's published and delivered every Tuesday and Friday. It has current content that would be of interest to those in our community. This is what it looks like. Somewhat. It's a little different when it comes in your inbox, but more or less, it's what it looks like. I'd like to invite all of you to our financial health and wellness professional community where everyone involved in the financial health and wellness space, whether it's helping professionals, investment people, accountants, business people, certainly financial social workers. Everyone's welcome if you're interested in the opportunity to learn, share, support, collaborate, and network with those with similar interests. It's $99 annually, but we have a code for you here for $20 off until next week. And you might find this as exciting as we do. It is very exciting to be able to Zoom with like-minded people around the country and around the world. We've had people attending. So no one chooses to have money problems, but most people do. No one can or needs to know everything about money, but everyone does need to know certain things about money. And if we want to reduce financial illiteracy, which we have to do, we have to prepare our children for the real world by teaching them about money. Next month, I see that it's cut off here, but next month's free webinar is the economics of enough. And the January webinar is on money and mental health toxicity. And you can register for those at our website. This is about our financial social work certification. It includes 20 CEUs. It is self-study and self-paced. Our students have 6 months to complete it, and everything is included. We do have a payment plan, and there is a 3-year renewal. And that concludes this webinar. So, Olga, do we have any questions? I know it's a little late and I know that some of you have to get going. I want to thank you for joining us. And for those of you who can stay, let me take a few questions.
Could you please tell more about financial health and wellness professional community?
Well, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. It is just a very exciting place. We have networking, we have trainings, we have money chats. I think there's 30 some events in the course of a year, and we can exchange ideas, learn from each other, talk about money. It's a really important piece of learning to talk about money because there are no places where we actually can go and feel safe and not judged when we talk about money. And those are just a few of the ways that this professional community is helping people. And you can find that on our website. Another question, Olga?
Why do you feel financial literacy is so important to DEI? Even the most DEI programs don't include it.
Well, it's such a critical part of inclusion, of equity, of diversity. It's a way that individuals can help themselves. Yes, we want greater DEI from the businesses and companies and governments we work for, but those don't happen quickly. As you can see, systems are slow to change. We want to empower clients, and financial illiteracy is incredibly disempowering. It only reinforces poor financial decision making. Let's do everything we can to recognize where clients need help financially from an educational and supportive and motivational perspective. It's so important. Any others we can?
What is the single most important piece of financial knowledge clients needs to know?
Well, nah, you can see many monthly free webinars and 5 workbooks in our certification. So there's no one single answer other than it's really important to understand credit and debt. Really important for clients to understand that credit can be your friend or it can absolutely be your enemy, as in financial profiling. That when you have a good credit score, when you're working to build wealth, interest rates can work for you. But when you have debt, interest rates are working against you. So that's an excellent place, along with spending, because we do tend to spend more than we earn. And really, actually, maybe this is the most important one, is to spend less than you earn. Okay, I'm good with that one. Anything else, Olga?
We have question about who is Innovis, Fourth Credit Bureau not know about. I'm not sure. Can you understand the question?
No.
Maybe it's from your slide. I'm not sure too. And like a comment, I think that's important for social workers to know that there are HUD counselors that work with families about their finances. Not a question, just a comment.
Well, thank you for that. And yes, but it is not a psychosocial approach. and it's not a behavioral approach. So when we fill a classroom with 15 or 20 people and teach them how to make a budget, we may feel that that's an accomplishment, but statistically, people don't use budgets. And of course, a budget is the most important financial tool. Well, one of the most important financial tools we have. But if you don't understand its value, and in this country we don't understand that it teaches us how much money we have, where our money comes from, where our money is going. We have to help clients understand that before we try to teach them the value of a budget so that they will and can take ownership of it. All right, one last question if we have it.
Also not a question, like a comment. Data on Asians often get grouped into one monolith instead of disaggregated into different ethnic groups. For example, like the credit score of Chinese Americans is likely higher than that of Cambodian Americans. So, like a comment.
Yes, it's true. It's true that those breakouts can never be as accurate as we might like them to be. And I tend to believe that, that's true with most statistics. I read a lot of research and articles to prepare for today. And you see differing statistics, you see different viewpoints. So I tried to give a general overview of what I found out there and to make it of value to our attendees. And I hope that it was. I really hope that it was, because I hope that it gave a different perspective and some tools for and strategies for addressing the problems. Anything else? Or,
No, that's all.
well, thanks everybody. I hope that we'll see you back here for future webinars, and you can watch for the recording in the next few days. Have a beautiful rest of your day and stay well. Bye now.